Okay, so we're going to start at the top of this page and work our way down. So just a recap about Strabo. So remember, he is an ancient geographer who, funnily enough, writes about geography. I'm not sure where that sentence was going. The issue with Strabo is he does tend to leave out places that he's not particularly interested in. However, for this particular source, it's not really an issue. He's just writing about some of the buildings that are put up around Rome. So here he talks about lots of different temples. He's describing where he is. So at the mouth of the Embracing Gulf is sacred site of the temple of Apollo of Actium. There is a high ridge of high ground at the summit. There is a temple, which is set to the temple itself, below a plain sacred grove. Here we go. Where a dockyard, where Caesar dedicated as the first fruits of his naval victory. So that's about Actium, offering 10 ships, a representative of each sample of each type of those on a single bank of oars right up against a 10-banker. Okay, fair enough. So he builds a dockyard, which is also very useful for trade. So great is the supply of water coming to the city through the aqueduct system. So the aqueduct brings in fresh water into the city. So he talks about this obviously huge, and that Marcus Agrippa, so this is Agrippa who'd fought during the Battle of Actium, is the one who's been in charge of the aqueduct system. He does a pretty good job. And he adorns lots of other structures. So basically, Augustus is using Agrippa to do all the important building work in the city itself. Fine. And then on the same theme, we have this small bit of Pliny. So when Agrippa is in Adale, he extends the main aqueduct. He repairs lots of channels. So there's lots of really good building work going on here. 700 reservoirs, 500 fountains, sort of wash basins, etc. He does it all within a year, so he does it really quickly. So he's really clever. He builds loads of statues and marble columns, and he holds lots of different games. So Agrippa is a busy man. But importantly, he improves the water supply on behalf of Augustus, which obviously Augustus then gets reflected glory for doing this work. But it does show some of the benefits of imperial rule, which is one of the key themes that we look at for the last interpretation bullet point for section A. Is basically whether or not the people who are living in Rome benefited from having the emperors. So anything about building works, particularly like water or trade or food supply, ties into that particular theme. Unfortunately, all you have to do is remember a load of places and things that are built, which makes life a little bit easier. And then, of course, we have Res Gestae by Augustus, talking about all the things he does. I'm not going to highlight loads from this because it's like a massive list of things. We'll pick out a couple of key things. So he built the Senate House. He builds the Temple of Divine Julius. That's to Julius Caesar. Remember, Julius Caesar was deified when he died. And then here's like a massive list of things. The Lupercal, the Portico, the Flaminian Circus. There's another couple more temples, another temple, another temple, another temple, another temple, another temple. You get the gist. He's building lots of temples, which obviously fits into the idea that Augustus was restoring religion as well. Also remember that the Lares is like a guardian spirit, so you could tie that into the idea that he was restoring kind of protection of the city as well. And then he goes on about his more buildings. So he rebuilds the Capitol and the Theatre of Pompey at enormous cost. He likes to point out he always spends lots of money. He's rebuilt some aqueducts in many places that decayed of age. Well, we know technically it's Agrippa, but he takes the credit. So he makes one particularly bigger. He's got the Forum of Julius, named after his family. And there's another couple of temples, another church. So I'm just skimming it through because most of these are not particularly interesting. As we've got, he rebuilt 82 temples of the gods in the city by authority of the Senate. So remember, he's saying that the Senate told him what to do it. It's probably not entirely true. However, he's always pointing out that it's not just him deciding to build things. It's always by the Senate or the people told him to do so. He builds a road, which obviously helps with trade. And he builds loads of bridges as well. He rebuilds a temple to Mars. Where have we got? So he consecrates gifts in the capital. So he's given loads of like rewards for victories, and he puts them back into Rome, not for himself, which is what that's talking about. And he talks about he gives lots of money. So he got 1 million sesterces as a result of it, which is what that's talking about. He is quite modest, so he's giving back crowns which were given to him, and he refuses other ones because he's trying to play down sort of this kind of wealthy idea. The later emperors lived in like a palace. Augustus remains in the same house that he lived in before kind of the Battle of Actium and so on and so forth. So he's trying to show that he's really modest, that he's sort of like a good Roman, which ties in against that idea of in terms of religion, about restoration. So that's why he sends back all these different crowns, so on and so forth, and is putting through the money. However, that's why I've talked through that bit. Most of it is just rebuilding stuff. So he builds lots of things, lots of aqueducts, there's lots of roads, everybody's happy because there's lots and lots of different buildings to have a look at.